First of all, I'm wondering what decision prompted this four-way stop after the construction was done. And considering that, it would be a convenience for me to get in out of my driveway to have that four-way stop there. It's really nice. Excuse me. It's really nice as a convenience getting in and off the highway. But it's not for my convenience. That four-way stop is just an unnatural traffic flow. You're basically in the country on a highway. Even though they call it Main Avenue South, it's still a highway. And that four-way stop is just not a natural flow of traffic. I've heard that the speed limit is going to be reduced to 35 miles an hour anyway. And there's going to be traffic lights up on 26th to control that intersection. And I think part of the problem with that, like I said, is a natural traffic flow. It just doesn't work in the country. Basically, that's what it is, country. Because you get a half mile, you go from that four-way stop a half mile before that light is going to be there, which will control 26th. And just on a convenience thing, it's great. But I don't think a four-way stop there is for convenience. I think it's for safety. I've heard comments that that's not a bad intersection as far as accidents. There is a problem with view north and south when you come up to that off of 32nd from either way. But if there's not accidents there, why bother the traffic flow? All it takes is one person off of 32nd to assume that who's ever coming up or down that highway is going to stop. And if they don't stop, it's going to be bad. I don't know why there hasn't been accidents there already. It's just something that I just decided at the last minute to show up here just to voice my concern that it's just not natural for people to stop basically in the country.
Okay.
You do have to pull ahead of those stop signs a little bit to look down to see if anybody's coming, but evidently it has been a problem in the past because there's just not the accidents there. The people are used to stopping and they can pull ahead a little bit and they can look. I watch it every day. I live with it every day on that corner. And it's just, you see people going through that stop sign, just not knowing it's there. People that use it every day still go through it now and again because they're just not used to it. It's on a highway.
Okay.
It's not a convenience. It's not a four-way stop is not a convenience. There's got to be a reason for it. You can rationalize that you need it because of this or that, but it's still a convenience for people basically coming off of 32nd from the west, the housing development back there. But it's really a problem maybe an hour and a half a day when the heavy traffic hits it in the morning. Otherwise, everybody has to stop somewhere and look for traffic.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Well, Lonnie, thanks for coming, and I'd encourage you, if you haven't, to visit with Sheriff Stanwyck. He's done some research on it, and he's submitted a report to us, and it will be on an agenda at a future date for any official actions. And thanks for coming and expressing your concern, and that's what we like to have, is citizens express their concerns to us. So if you'd visit with Sheriff Stanwyck, and you will certainly be advised when it's brought to this table for official action. But thanks for coming by.
Lonnie, I just might want to mention that I think it's important that everybody that's involved in this is going to have to be an ordinance, done by ordinance. So it has to be published, and then first reading and a second reading. Everybody's going to be able to get a chance to speak just like you did today. I think there's going to be a lot of people speaking for it. If you have opposition to it, that's when you would show up and then this board would make that decision. But that's probably going to be 30 days out. It'll be in January sometime before they,
Okay.
but that'd be the appropriate time to come and express your
Right.
concerns.
My concern was, if I didn't happen to be here at the time that they had the open hearings on it,
Yeah.
that I wouldn't have a say. Just the way it's working out on my calendar, I don't know if
Yeah.
I'll be around.
But just, do you know that that's the time, appropriate time?
Right.
Because everybody has the same option that you'd have then to express
Right.
support for it as well as opposition. So thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Lonnie. Happy holidays to you, and I encourage you to visit with Sheriff Marty, and he'll fill you in on some of his gatherings
This guy
as
here
well.
in the uniform?
Pardon?
This guy in the uniform?
That's that guy right there. Is there anyone else that had any concerns about or wanting to put something on a future agenda? If not, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
I'd like to add that we go into executive session to discuss litigation.
Okay.
Matter,
At the end of the meeting, you're requesting,
and it'll be short and brief, but an update.
okay, executive session for legal purposes. Okay. Any other commissioners or department heads here present have anything regarding the agenda? If not, we'll accept the agenda and approve it as amended. Our consent agenda items are the minutes, the travel education, personnel action, and human services reports. They're all in our packets, quite extensively defined.
There was one additional personnel action notice that I handed out in my additional staff report for the state's attorney's office this morning.
Okay. Any questions regarding that action notice? Okay. Without objection, we'll accept the consent agenda items and move on to our routine business. Under number 6, item A is approval of the claims.
So moved.
Moved by Falcon, second by Miller. Discussion? Commissioner, did you have discussion?
Ready
Oh,
for-
the one,
ready for-
the one thing I would mention that's not currently in the claims, but I visited with Mr. Richter from Swiftel Center, and he hasn't presented us the bill for our share of the repairs of the roof to the resource center, but it appears everything is going to come in within the preliminary suggested costs. So you can be looking forward to that at a future date. No other discussion on the claims? Please call a roll.
Wyseth,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Falcon,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
motion carried.
Item number B is our department head reports. We'll start on the far end with Mr. Hill. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Commissioner. I've been gone for a couple of meetings, so I got a little report. I have attended the Emergency Management Association's conference and a Pipeline Safety Trust conference since I've been gone. On April 9th, 2015, we have a senior officials workshop. It's been scheduled for April 9th. It was brought to your attention earlier. The Planning Commission is meeting tonight, and we'd like to invite anybody that would like to come to it. We've got a couple items on the agenda. There was a drill up at IB Drill at Buffalo Ridge 2 on November 19th, and that exercise went well. It was supported by White's Ambulance Service and the Brookings County Sheriff's Department, and my office was up there as an evaluator. That all went well. We have a PPCC, the Pandemic Planning Coordinating Committee, is meeting on December 11th, next Thursday. Our Local Emergency Planning Committee had a meeting on November 20th. We have submitted grant paperwork, and for some reason, the Local Emergency Planning Committee has been sitting on quite a bit of money for the last approximately 10 years. And the state has come down and said we will either utilize the money or else it will go back into the state coffers. And so the LEPC's got a plan that we'll bring to this board early next year, but the plan's gonna be to order some hazardous material type mats and booms and stuff that we need, and we've been using for the last time for hazardous materials. The local emergency planning committee, any funds there has to be used strictly for hazardous materials, supplies, and exercises and things like that. So we'll probably have an exercise next year using that money and, you know, sponsor like the home show booth and stuff like that, because the local emergency planning committee is a real important committee. It's the actual link between the civilian population and the hazardous materials in the county. And that's why the whole committee's set up through the State Emergency Response Commission. And we're gonna kick that off a little bit more next year and see what kind of input we can get. I did attend the Optimist Club meeting breakfast this morning. That was a very nice event. We had a transportation committee meeting yesterday at the city of Brookings, and a motion was made to send a recommendation to the city council next week on a 5-lane, 11-foot wide, add historical lighting, replant some trees in a good manner, and they also sent a recommendation of a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on that area between basically the Wells Fargo Bank up to Madera Avenue, or actually, I think it goes all the way to 22nd probably, but on that new stretch of road. The Transportation Committee is also scheduled to meet in Pierre on January 21st. That's the Brookings Day at the Capitol. I don't normally go to Brookings Day at the Capitol, but this year I'll probably turn a request in to go. We are going to be meeting with the Secretary of Transportation as a committee and give them all our thoughts on the committee that we're doing. And after tonight's meeting, zoning meeting, we are going to get together some stuff, and we're working on the comprehensive plan. We did have a meeting last Tuesday night, or last Tuesday afternoon, from 1 to 5. We had a meeting on the comprehensive plan, and some of the stuff that came out of that is we're going to have to bring in an ordinance update the first part of the year, while they still continue working on the comprehensive plan. But our ordinance has got a glitch or two in it that we don't want to wait until we finish with the comprehensive plan to change a couple items. So we're going to bring that to the board later on. Any questions?
How was your national meetings? Were they good?
They went quite well. They NACO, National Association of Counties, is one of the affiliates, or the International Association of Emergency Managers is an affiliate of NACO. So some of the discussion they had emergency management at the local level discussions going on, which was quite interesting. And NACO was a big part of that. And I think it was worthwhile going to.
Okay, were you a presenter at any of these?
Not this time, no.
For the benefit of our public, and which seldom do we have at our meetings, Mr. Hill is recognized nationally, working with pipelines and power lines and things like that, and is from time to time invited to give presentations at some of the national meetings regarding how he's conducted and how things are done here in Brookings County. And to his credit, we had about 3/4 of a page talking about Brookings County in a National Association publication. So I want to thank Bob for your efforts in promoting Brookings County in a very beneficial way. So
I love my job.
thank you, Bob.
Have a great day.
Vicki from Finance? Okay. Sheriff Stanwyck. Morning, Marty.
Just give a quick update.
Okay.
With our jail inmate population, we have 22 in jail presently. Our 24/7 program, I have 60 people that are participants of the 24/7 program. 26 come in daily to PBT. I have 24 on the Scram bracelet. Then I have 10 participants that are, they blow in other counties. To date, The 24/7 programs brought in $37,085, and again, I just let that it's still a program that pays for itself and stuff. It's slightly down from last year. From the same time last year in 2013, it was $41,283 with a difference of about $4,000. But I looked at it as maybe that's good, is because maybe we have people that are drinking less, you know. So I look at that, that's a good thing if we have less people on the program. So we kept the fire chief busy yesterday in his department with 2 rural fires, one in the interstate. The interstate was shut down for a period of time, and then we also had a pickup fire. I believe it was a pickup fire, wasn't it? Daryl's here. So his guys were busy yesterday, and then it has to be one of the colder days too, so they always do a good job out there, especially on the interstate. They got, our biggest problem is trying to shut down and having enough manpower to get, you know, the traffic just keeps coming and coming, but the fire department helps with traffic control and assists with highway patrol in my office, so that works good. We've been busy with accidents. The month of November, we had 53 total accidents for the department in the month of November, and we had 30 car deer. Of that 53, 30 of them were car deer accidents. So it's been busy with car deer, with the moving and stuff. That's all really I have, unless the commission has any questions.
Questions for Sheriff?
I did order 2, just for our 4-way stop sign, I did order 2 flashing lights. They're coming in this week, and we'll throw up on there just to help. We've been monitoring that and talk more about it in the work session if you'd like. So.
Okay. Thanks, Marty. Appreciate it. Mr. Burke from Highway. Morning, Dick.
I don't have a lot this morning. The sign project, since the ground is froze now, they've pretty much put everything on hold till next spring. So if you wonder why there isn't further progress or whatever, that's the reason. Also, there's been a couple calls this last week where people felt that the sign people had removed signs that weren't intended to be returned or removed, and I guess I informed them the best I could that, you know, these people are being contracted to do certain signs, and if it isn't on the plans, and if it isn't you know, one call done or this and that, they're not out just looking for signs to remove and replace. So it's important that people understand that basically it's our traffic signs, and then it'll be the 911 signs, and next spring it'll be the township signs. And they're following a pretty tight protocol that's established by the state because it's their contract. So if you get any calls or whatever, maybe just refer them to me, and I'll try to explain the best I can that, you know, that's what's going on.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
along those lines, I have had a few calls regarding the fact that they're leaving the old posts, and people are concerned about that because the statement was, well, that's one more thing for somebody to hit. So, you know, do you know why that's happening?
Well, basically, they're switching out all the signs, and the old posts is kind of the final process that they go through, and they'll pull. They did get the ones pulled on Highway 1, but they're starting in the progression like they were installed, so they'll go 1, 2, 3 chronologically.
So they're going back and getting those.
Yes,
now.
but now that the ground is froze, I doubt if they'll go pull now.
But they
that's-
all will ultimately be pulled.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions for Highway Superintendent? Okay. Thanks,
Okay.
Dick.
You're welcome.
We've got some special guests with us today that walked in after we got started. It's Youth and Government Day. These young people from the school are learning about city and county government, and they've got a full day. Would you, students, please stand up so we can acknowledge you and all smile because you're on TV. Thank you and welcome. Hope you have an exciting day, and informative as well. Do we have any other department heads? Sonia, did you have something you'd like to bring forward this morning? Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to make it up this last quarter before the year's over, I guess. A little bit of what's been happening since I was here in August. State Fair, Brookings County did well youth did well at the fair. I attended the National Association of Extension 4-H Agents meeting in Minneapolis the last week of October. It was an excellent conference hosted by the 4-H professionals of Minnesota. The Extension Board has been meeting, I think we met in September and in November here, continuing talking about the kind of our forward plan as well as the part-time position that you will be looking at a little bit further down on your agenda this morning. School is back in swing, so after school program is happening at the Boys and Girls Club, at the base program in Volga, and at 3 GAP sites, Hillcrest School, Maderi School, and the First Methodist Church, as well as some after-school programming with the Dubrook School. Our 4-H recognition event was in November. Weather wasn't the best, but we have a spaghetti supper for the families and our sponsors. We served over 100 and recognized several 4-H members. I couldn't put a number on that, but there was many of them receiving recognition. We have our shooting sport registration day this Saturday, so we've been preparing for that. As a result, I'm sure there'll be an influx of enrollments after Saturday, but as of this morning, our 4-H enrollment system was down the month of October. The new 4-H year begins October 1. Enrollment this year did not open until November 1 for maintenance on that program, and as of this morning, we have 121 4-H members re-enrolled, and I think there was 17 volunteers that were re-enrolled as well. In addition to shooting sport registration and safety training that will be taking place this month, we are also underway with our winter calf show that will be held the 29th and 30th at the Swiftel Holding Barn.
Okay. Questions? Board members? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Albeit you're not an official department head, but we do have the fire chief. Do you have anything that you'd like to report to us besides the regular agenda item, Darrell? Darrell's here representing all of the fire departments of the county.
Kind of what Marty led into earlier, it's truly nice to have a group of professionals that work well together. I came from a community that was not the fact. Law enforcement, EMS, and fire work well together, and I just wanted to kind of, after what Marty said, kind of bring that up. It is a very good working relationship, and we want to keep it that way. And I am speaking for all the fire departments in the county, so it's working well.
Thanks, Darrell. Anybody have questions for Darrell? If not, I don't notice any of our other department heads in the audience at this time. We're about 2 minutes early for our 9 o'clock appointment. But I think for the sake of time, and I think as I look out over the audience, everyone that's concerned or has any comments regarding our 9 o'clock is here. And so we go to our number 7, our scheduled agenda items. And this is an action regarding the tax-exempt economic development bonds series 2011, I'm sorry, with the United Living Center. At this time, we do have it on the agenda, and we have it in our packet. Commissioners, if it's appropriate, before we put a motion on the floor, I would ask Sally Dom to come up, or anyone affiliated with the project, feel free to come to the front desk. If there's more than 2 of you, feel free to bring your chair along, and we'll listen to your description, albeit I think it's going to be the same that we have in our packet.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Sally
Morning.
Dom from United Retirement Center, doing business as United Living Community. This morning, I asked the County Commission to consent to the lease with the Children's Museum of South Dakota, substantially informed, presented to the commission on this date, which means that you're consenting that United Retirement Center and the Children's Museum can lease our Child Development Center. For the past several months, I have been joined by a remarkable group of men and women from the Lasting and Strengthening Partnership. This morning, representing the Children's Museum of South Dakota is Mr. Dale Larson, Mr. Bill Ritterath, the Chief Financial Officer of Larson Manufacturing. Mr. James Haig is the President of the United Living Community Board. Mr. Larry Fieldos is the President of the United Living Community Foundation. Mr. Bob Broski is a member of our Board of Directors. And Ms. Rita Edwards is the Vice President of the Corporate Council for Home Federal. This group of people, with the assistance of Mr. Doug Hayek, the Bond Counsel for Home Federal, and the person that presented these bonds in 2011, for those of you who are on the commission, and Mr. Dan Rafferty, legal representative for United Living Community, come together to ensure the requirements of the bonds have been met. And the final step in this partnership relationship is to have the commissioner's consent. In 2011, the Brookings County approved the Economic Development Revenue Bond Series 2011. It is a requirement of these bonds to return to you, the commissioners, to ask for your consent to move forward on this remarkable and substantial reinforcement of the importance of child care, development, and educational opportunities for the children of Brookings. So I thank you for your generous support of this project that will bring the Brookings County and the surrounding area with the highest quality of care of an intergenerational program in the nation.
Okay, Mr. Larson, Mr. Haig, do either of you have any comments you'd like to make this time? Anyone else in our audience? Mr. Feldos, I see you. Bob? I think you just have interested people and people supporting your request. At this time, I think I don't see Abby, but I think for our discussion, yes.
She had to step out to go give the tour for the youth and government students, but she said basically they're just looking for consent to move forward with this.
Right. Okay, for discussion at our table, I would ask that we have a motion in favor.
Move to approve.
Moved by Miller.
Second.
Second by Wyseth. Commissioners, any discussion?
And this motion would be not to approve this. It would just be consent for you to move forward. Is that correct?
Yes, you're not approving anything. You're just giving your consent to move forward with the
Because
project.
the way it says here is action regarding tax exempt bonds, so it really doesn't explain that. But I understand what you're doing. We have to go through this process, and our legal people will certainly follow up and make sure everything's in order. But
Yeah, Doug Hayek and Abby have been, and Dan Rafferty have been in contact.
together. Okay.
Any other comments? I know I've had lengthy discussion with your chairman, Mr. Haig, and I think this cooperative effort, we've seen what an asset the Children's Museum is to this community, and now you're working together with them. I think it's going to create an outstanding opportunity to not only care for our young children, but actually educate them as they move forward. So, there being any other discussion, Chair will please call the roll.
Miller,
Aye.
Falcon,
Aye.
Wyseth,
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
I guess I just want to thank everybody that took the time out to come in support of this today. It really shows that it's a collaboration of all the people involved in it. Thank you.
We are so lucky in this community to have projects like this. Okay, as we continue on with our agenda, we do have the finance officer's report, and at this time, you don't need to leave, folks. We welcome you to stick around and listen to government in action. But thanks for all that all of you do for the community.
Good morning.
Good morning, Vicki.
You should have received in your packet, I guess it's up on the screen too, the finance officer's report from October. And everything is spelled out. The be it noted items are the auditor's account with the treasurer, the payroll and additives total, the highway expenditure report, register of deeds statement, and also the investment report for Brookings County was also included in there. And if anybody has any questions on any of those items.
Commissioners, any questions?
And to just give you a little update with our office too, yesterday was the deadline for paying property taxes, so they aren't published in the paper as delinquent. So we had a very busy day with people paying taxes and also the ones that didn't get in before the deadline for the November motor vehicle licenses, so it was busy with that. And we will be meeting, I think Stacy and I will be meeting with different department heads to go over the budget and see if we need to make any contingency transfers before the end of the year. So we will be working on that the next couple of weeks. And still working with the states, haven't gotten any approval of levies, getting the special assessments to the state also. So we will be hopefully printing tax notices. We are having it done with an outside source this year, but we will be printing those so they can go out the first week in January. So I'm sure we'll still be on schedule with that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I guess not. Thanks, Vicki. Okay, moving on to item number 8 in our agenda, which is our regular business. Our item A is the action to approve a request to fill a vacancy for the part-time 4-H program assistant to begin in 2015. Chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Moved
Second.
by Miller, second by Wyseth. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Falcon.
Aye.
Wyseth.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Item B is action to approve Agreement 14-80. This is the 2015 Juvenile Detention Per Diem Contract between Brookings County and Minnehaha County.
So moved.
Moved by Falcon.
Se-
Second by Miller. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Wyseth.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Falcon.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Don, can I just make a comment? This, it's part of our agreement with the counties, so on and so forth, but there is a meeting in Sioux Falls of the JDC board on the 17th, and I have to be in Rochester, so if someone could attend that meeting, they use about every quarter, but I'm the appointed representative from the county. If someone's available, you can think about it and let me know, but get hold of Ken McFarland down there. But I think it's at 1 o'clock. I was on my calendar and it disappeared because I didn't respond to it, so I suppose I noticed it was gone this morning, but I know it's on the 17th. I think it's at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
If anybody could go to that, it'd probably be good to be represented.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, Commissioner. Item number C is action to approve the petition for the proposed Lake Hendricks Road District and set the election date as January 27, 2015. Moved by Wyseth, second by
Second.
Falcon. Discussion? We've got all the material in our packet. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Miller.
Aye.
Falcon.
Aye.
Wyseth.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, item D is the action to approve a request by the Brookings Fire Association on behalf of the Volga Fire Department for $17,753.97 to help pay for their new brush truck, with funds coming from our County Firefighters Association reserve account.
So moved.
Moved by Falcon, second by Miller. Discussion? I think you got a slam dunk.
Well, I think it's been going on for several years now, but our fire departments have been saving up that county money for these larger purchases, and go out and take a look at the equipment around. It's really making an impact. We really appreciate the funding that we receive every year, and it's being used well.
And this is a cooperative effort by all of the fire departments. Everybody kind of plans ahead and schedules and
That's correct.
as equipment is needed, they bring it forward. And
Yeah, I think sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle that every year budget time we approve this, and you don't spend it. You can put long-term needs and keep that money going, and then all of a sudden buy a nice piece of equipment that's really needed. And
Yeah.
I think it really works well, and you guys, it really makes everybody plan ahead.
Yes.
And I think that's the intent behind it, and
Yeah, it's been working well.
hopefully
It's
we
been used well.
continue to support it.
okay. Any other questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Falcon,
Aye.
Wyseth,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Darrell, and I
Thank you.
certainly appreciate all of the fine work that our volunteers do.
Thank you. I'll let them know.
Okay, item number E is discussion on the available liquor license in Brookings County, and this is a discussion item. We do have a request from Mr. Erickson and his associate. Feel free to come up to the front and make your comments, and then our board will discuss it. And we do have an extensive report on this in our packet as well. Introduce yourselves and
First, thank you very much for giving us the...
ma'am, I need your name first,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. My name's Jennifer Harrison.
Jennifer Harrison? Okay.
And this is Charlie Erickson.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Erickson. I'm
Char-
the owner of the wagon wheel out there.
Okay. Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come up and speak with you guys. My boyfriend and I have purchased the bar associated with the Wagon Wheel Resort that Charlie owns a couple months ago. We have done a little bit of legwork here in order to try to obtain a liquor license. Right now, we only have our beer and malt beverage license. I guess the previous owners of the bar had asked about a liquor license when they put in for their beer and malt beverage license, and that would have been last spring. At that time, they were told that there were only six licenses. Not to kind of go over your heads, but we just wanted to ascertain that for ourselves when I started looking into buying the bar. And that is when the state told us that based on population, there would be a 7th license available. My understanding is we knew that there was a 7th license. It was unfortunately after that September 1st deadline. However, there had at least been one other request for someone to look into getting another liquor license or getting a liquor license for that particular bar prior to September 1st. So now with what we know about the September 1st deadline for the following year, that I guess that's kind of where I'm interested to see where this conversation is going to go, because we should have known about it prior to September 1st. All we did was call and talk to the state, and the state was nice enough to go through, the population for the county. It took a phone call. So that's kind of where we're at. So I just, I guess we'll just see how the discussion goes and take it from there.
Okay. Any questions?
So you hadn't formally submitted an application, all you did was have a conversation with someone, well, you went to the state and they told you that prior to September 1st?
No, prior to September 1st, the previous owners, Shelley and Darrell Rankin, when they had submitted their license for their beer and malt beverage last spring, they had tried to obtain a liquor license also. and they were told by this county that there were only 6 available and that they were all, out.
Yeah.
So they were not able to get one. Now, throughout the summer, though, I think Charlie has spoken to, whoever he's spoken to, and it was always the same story that there were only 6. That's why there was no applications submitted prior to September, because nobody had said that there was one available. Now, when I called the state, it was in September, because I bought the bar and took over in October, and we wanted to make sure that there was, we wanted to know exactly what was going on with the liquor license situation, if there may be one available at some point soon, or how far off the population was, before we invested in the bar. So we did that in September, and that was when we found out that through the state that yes, there was a 7th license. So it was in September, and we, and that's when I started talking to Stacy, and we got our application in, and last month, and kind of did it that way. But when I started talking to the state and then to Stacy, I was not aware of the September 1st deadline. That was only brought to my knowledge a week ago, or less than a week ago. So.
That'd be about the time I found out about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the way it appears from our information now, and apparently, I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, I guess it's just from a lack of experience
Right.
that we don't have many liquor licenses come up. We've got to do a resolution before September 1st, and then, but the license, according to the material we have, would not be available until January 1st of 2015. Is that correct? In my
2016. It would be a year out.
Yeah. Let's see. Where is that?
It's 2016.
I think that year was wrong on that.
Yes,
There's a
I'm
report
sorry.
that said-
Yes, 2016. Yeah.
I guess, to me, trying to understand the process, I think even though your population warrants another license, and you said there's one available, it's not really available till this board takes action based upon the population to allow another license, and then the process starts. Now, I don't know why, and I guess it doesn't make sense to me why when the population has come out and the state gets them and knows that there's another license available, why doesn't the state send out a letter and say, Brookings County, you're eligible for another license if you want to start the process to allow one? If this board chooses, I mean, I think they can not have that 7th license if they don't feel the need for it or whatever that decision comes. But I think it's a process thing. And being that process wasn't, gone through, we weren't aware of it. I mean, there wasn't anybody here holding the license back because we didn't, we knew there was one available. But through this turn of events now, we're kind of in that issue where we have to go through we have to make a resolution and start that process to issue that 7th license.
Right.
And then the decision, how is that license going to be issued?
Generally speaking, the state notifies cities and counties upon the completion of the
Census?
The census, which had been 2010, I guess. And so it had been 2011 or so that but what they do in the interim period will take, based upon extrapolation, that you're due one because of a growth in your community from their statistical analysis of our population. So you end on 2010, 6 licenses, but in that period of time, and say you were down in Harrisburg or someplace like that that was going crazy, they can keep going back and say, where are we at? Where are we at? And it's not an official U.S. census, but it's a census conducted by Department of Revenue.
But it's still the same process where you have to have a resolution to add that license, even if you get the request and kind of monitor that.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with municipal and somebody else, but generally I don't know if they do a resolution. They just, I was surprised the county does one. Quite frankly, the city knows that they got one, and they can make a decision whether they're going to issue it. You know, Brookings has sat on that one forever. Maybe they're still sitting on one for the big convention center. And I don't know if they pass a resolution. They just make a decision based upon, they got so many licenses, what are they going to do with them, you know? So I was surprised there was even a resolution, but whatever, Abby's not here, you know, we're going to follow the rules that are laid out by our county.
Well, it's dictated by state law. That's what we are obligated to abide by state law. And that's what tells us how we do this. And, you know, it is a bit upsetting that we didn't know, but it's not something that we would make a call to the state and say, oh, by the way, do we have another liquor license available to us? So, you know, it's very unfortunate that this has been set back, but I don't see how we get around the law.
I guess I would just like to have Abby, I know she's looked into it, but do a final decision that this board can follow, has to follow. And, you know, we got to follow the law. So it's just a decision and that, you know, that has to be made through research. And I think she's looked at it and determined that's the process. But if there was a request prior to September, I don't think that's going to help us. But I'd like to have her check, you know, follow up on it and just, you know, give her a report back.
I do know that in this past summer, just in casual conversation with Mr. Erickson, he asked about the liquor licenses in Brookings County, and I said, well, we don't have any available at this time, not even thinking that we had gained enough population outside of the municipalities to allow for another one. Otherwise, this question, they wouldn't be here today. We would have had it all taken care of. And so it wasn't negligence by intent. It was just the fact that we weren't aware that our population had increased enough outside the municipalities to allow for one. So the question was asked late spring, really, Charlie, is when you asked about it. And so, but right now our hands are tied by law unless the legal system would render any other decision. But
yeah, you know, we did ask, but we never did nothing in writing or anything, you know, and we never checked with the state because we just were going what we were told. And
yeah, and if it was negligence on my part as a commissioner, then I accept that responsibility. But I had no idea that our outside municipality population growth allowed us to have a seventh one, because it's been the policy of this board that as they become available, we make them available. Whether someone applies for it or not, that's neither here nor there, but there is a license available. Well, had we known this in the past, we could have had it laying on the table for somebody to apply for, you know. But
We of course we're not blaming anybody. We're just trying to figure out a way to, you know, make it work for us. You know, this opportunity that has come to me it's wonderful. You know, but we do have the people that come in and want to buy liquor, you know, sit down and have a drink with their buddies, and you know, they usually don't stay very long when they find out that we don't have it. So, you know, there's a lot of support on our lake, just with people that do live there year round that would like to see us have the liquor license. And so that's why we're here. I mean, we're here because we want to see if there's any possible way to work it out or work around it, or, you know, whatnot.
and that would have to be something the legal system, the attorneys would have to determine, and we aren't in that position.
That's
but.
fine.
Well, I was just reading what's quoted there, and we're not required to have an ordinance or continuing resolution. And we could have continuing resolution that whenever there's a license, but unfortunately, it doesn't change what our resolutions already says. We can leave it open that whenever we reach a number that we will make available upon that date. We could have said whatever according to the state law, but that September date is in there. I would just recommend you talk to we'll check with our attorney to see if there's anything as far as county, and I doubt if there is, because of the dang resolution that we have. But they did pass restaurant licenses. I don't know if they're available to counties, and there are other one-day licenses, and I don't know if they're available to counties and things like that. Municipalities have a lot more wiggle room on that stuff, but that's something for you could look into.
Okay. We appreciate you coming by and wish you good luck.
Thank you.
And we'll take a look at that resolution after the first of the year.
Great, thank
Okay.
you very much, guys.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be on our agenda after the first.
Okay. Next item is item number 9, our Commission Department Director report. Stacy, do you want to sit there or do you want to come down front? Thanks, Charlie.
Okay, I have 2 staff reports, one that was actually in the packet, and then I passed out one to you this morning with the deadline to get the packet in earlier last week due to the holiday. Some other things came up. So the first is I've had some conversations with Dick about the board the past 2 years, well actually 3 years for 13, 14, and now for 15. As part of your budget discussions, you have, the request was to put money in our county building fund to go towards, eventually to go towards the shop and sign EI. I think I've included that in your list of information from today, the copies of the budget requests over the past several years that Dick submitted at budget time. That put, I think, 25,000 in 13, 50,000 for this year, and 50,000 again for next year. What hasn't been done is we haven't officially designated those funds for that purpose within that building fund. So that's something that I wanted you to be aware of, and that I'll probably be looking for that designation at the end of the year, so we know that that amount of money that was requested at budget time is actually going to be designated for that purpose. Supplemental budget hearing for the new building. I think all of the bills now are in for the new building out at the highway shop. I gave you a couple options in my report from today about if we want to do that by supplemental budget hearing or do contingency. I think I would recommend the supplemental budget hearing for that. We've budgeted for it in past years. I think in 2013 we had a budget for that building and it didn't get done till this year. And I'll be discussing contingency. There's some things that we've already kind of earmarked that contingency for already too. So if I can just kind of get, if we can go ahead, we'll start publishing that supplemental budget hearing to be heard on the 30th.
That's
Okay?
fine. Yeah, I'll go with what you say.
All right.
It's like at home, my wife and I argue about money. I says, what's the final amount? We taking it from, I don't care if it comes out of a checkbook or savings, it's just money is gone. But so the process is whatever's better.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I think all of you received an email that Michelle had sent out maybe last week about the volunteer board positions. In looking at those, it was kind of confusing because they were appointed in January, but we would reappoint in January. So to clarify things, we're going to have terms run from January 1st to December 31st for most of the positions. There's some that have specific dates set up where they apply. For example, the extension board is January 10th. That's in statute. So for those that will run January through December, we'll have those, we notified those folks. We had the public notice sent out for folks to reapply for several of those positions that are going to be filled yet this year to begin January 1. So
So what, when will they be on the 30th, or will they be?
they'll be on the
next-
30th.
Or next week?
Nope,
Or next-
the 30th.
Okay, I mean, that's kind of a, I mean, if they're, I know I've had conversation with Jim Boer from the hospital, and I know that they've got a lot of stuff they're working on, and they're concerned about if, you know, if he's gonna be staying on the board, of if that's the appointment, and, you know, waiting till the 30th to let them know that the next day they were either on or off. I don't know if, did anybody go to that hospital board meeting? For Ryan, because I know they wanted to talk to our representative at that meeting, and I don't, you know, and is it, you know, should it, yeah. I understand having January 1st is a good time to do that, but waiting till December 30th to make that appointment is kind of cutting it close. I don't, see my point?
Didn't we had a discussion on this earlier. Every year we have a discussion, especially about the hospital board, because they want to do it earlier. And we did do it earlier for them last year, didn't we?
I don't
Do you
remember.
recall?
I don't remember, but
I don't remember the one hospital board, and I thought that was to fill in for somebody that was.
But anyway, if they're December, that's fine. I think, you know.
And we could take a look at that, so we could get that information out sooner next year. It's just that we just got the information for the public notice sent out last week, and we wanted, you had decided as a board too that you didn't want to just reappoint your current people in those positions. You wanted to open it up for applications. So we have to give a length of time so people get the public notice and have a chance to apply.
Just follow up on what Dennis is saying, you know, other than the extension board, which is in statute, the other ones are.
I think weed board, there's weeds done in March or May. I think
But
I'd written that down.
the other ones
Housing
are
in, March, and then
our deal.
housing and redevelopment is in May.
I think it's worth considering that when an appointment's coming to an end, we just say by December 15th or something, like, you know, whatever. Other than the ones that are controlled by the statute, like extension board, the other ones, they're in our ballpark. And the hospital board, of course, you have to work with their rules, and the hospital board, they have their bylaws, and we're allowed 3 appointments, but why not? We just say we'll appoint, the appointment will begin on January 1st, but the appointment will take place sooner.
Yeah, I think Denny brings up a very valid comment. Is it would appear to me that those where we have discretion that are annual, you start first of the year or whenever that appointment starts, that this board make the appointment a month prior, so that by December 1, the appointments are made so that the ongoing board member knows they're going to be there, or they're not going to be there, and the new one can be go through orientation and be ready to start. You know,
Okay.
I agree. I think a month is a better idea because it'll give them an opportunity then at their next board meeting that month to.
Yep, and we'll do that moving forward.
Okay.
Absolutely.
the
We'll
ball's
just move it
already
all.
rolling here.
We'll just move it up a month.
The reason I say a month is because oftentimes these board meet once a month,
Right.
and so you don't know what part of the month they're going to meet in. So if the first of the month you make the
Exactly.
appointment, the new appointee can at least, although they're not the board, but they can go and sit in on the meeting and kind of get a
There's got to be a
self-orientation.
deadline where,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like 30 days prior to the appointment, all apps have to be in, and then, you know, or
Yep.
45 days prior to it, because it isn't fair to keep them hanging and not knowing for sure. And I know I saw the app already from Jim. I mean, Mr. Boer put his application in.
I don't know if we've,
Yeah, I'm sure it's there.
I
But
haven't
anyway.
seen it, but maybe Michelle has it.
Yeah, because
Seems-
he's been
I-
asking me for the last 3 months, when, you know, that maybe he's
I
been
think
asking me the point of when is it going to come out to apply. Maybe that's what he's getting more into, but anyway, yeah, I think.
Well, we're talking about volunteer boards. Bob, you said something that kind of piqued my, Robert Hill, this emergency management board that you said is made up of citizens. How does a person get on those boards?
The local emergency planning committee,
Yeah.
by state law, there's a state law that states so many of them has to be private citizens, so many of them has to come from business, so many fire department, law enforcement, education, and then we, as an LEPC, we go out and we invite those people to the board.
And, at your board and makes the invite to the private citizen?
Correct.
Okay, great.
It is considered a county board, but for liability purposes, but we've always, because the state law specifies different elements, the county commission's always been grateful enough to let us to run it, so.
The problem is within our government structure, there is no consistency on this stuff.
Okay.
Contingency in my report from today, we kind of discussed contingency moving forward. I want to kind of get an idea so Vicki and I know how to proceed with when we're audited. The state auditors look at an entire budget. They look at that bottom line budget to make sure that it hasn't gone over a specific budget for a department. They don't look at individual line by line items. So if like a supply line goes over budget, they don't care as long as the bottom line is okay. So when we start to look at creating this resolution for contingency transfers, do you want us to look line by line, or do you want us to look at the bottom line budget? Bottom line, they've stayed within their budget, but to more accurately reflect what they're really spending within those object lines, if we do contingency, then the budgets will move forward and actually reflect what was spent. If you give it contingency, then it will show that it received the budget for what was actually spent. Because somebody could way overspend a supply line, for instance, and we're not going to know that if we don't provide it the contingency, through the resolution to give it the budget to show for future reference, I think, more than anything.
Is there a way that there could be a percentage over that you'd be concerned about it? If you went 10% over in a line, then you'd look at that line. If it was 20% over, you look at there's always going to be things that happen that are going to make you buy a copy or something that you didn't anticipate buying that's going to throw you over. And departments can't, there's nothing they can do about that. They have to buy it and they know they're going to be over, but then they look and say, okay, to make this work, I'm not going to spend as much money out of this line so like my budget doesn't go over. I think that's appropriate, but I do think if you consistently year after year, you're 20% over in a particular line, that should be noted and brought to the attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in other words, though, really, bottom line, you're going to have to look line by line. Basically.
If it gives a truer reflection, then you're providing the budget then for those object level lines. So then moving forward, when you look at it, 15's already set, but then when you look at it for 16, you'll see, okay,
Right.
we started with this, we ended with this, we had to give this line more budget. It's going to show, so instead of a $6,000 budget, it's going to show that we actually gave this line a $10,000 budget by the end of the year. And that's what was needed.
And I think that's appropriate. I think we need to do it line by line.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's better for future budgeting purposes, not to just check on what happened, but what doesn't hurt to know why. But for future budget, if you otherwise just everybody come in and ask for $100,000 and we'll talk to you at the end of the year. I mean, if you don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about, you're going to be looking at line by line anyway.
We will.
Whether or not you want that documented somewhere that a line by line.
Right.
But I mean, you're going to look at it anyway.
Right, we will.
It's just whether or not you have to make that report that this particular line is over is where the work comes in.
Or if you want it to provide a specific line that's over contingency.
Right.
The line by line gives a real accurate picture of actual cost.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's what we look for in the budgeting process is the actual cost of operation. And then you may have a line like was just mentioned that's way over in one given year, and that's because of an unusual event, i.e. piece of equipment that failed that wasn't in the long-term plan for replacement. So.
Yep. Just a couple other quick things, a sidewalk, I think I emailed you folks on that right at the end of the day on Wednesday. We've got that taken care of, I think, moving forward with the 1921 building parking lot. Just so you know, Judge Foley will be here at 8:15 on January 6th to administer oaths to all of the newly elected commissioners, as well as Sheriff Stanwyck and Bev Chapman, our Register of Deeds. Stuart Melby then will be here at 8:30 that day to take board photos. I think he does individual photos at that time too, so make sure you dress appropriately. And then we did receive the signed letters back from the union representative about the day after Christmas. So that is now official. We'll get the day after Christmas, the 26th, instead of Christmas Eve day off. I think we're going to be starting GIS tech interviews this week, so hopefully we'll find somebody good. Department head reviews, when do you want to do them, or how do you want me to schedule those for year-end reviews for department heads? Do you usually do that in executive session?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to do that as part of the 16th, after the 16th, next Tuesday, or the next meeting?
That's probably the best.
And then last but not least, the work sessions. I think Dennis had brought it up last week that some of the discussions that we're holding in those work sessions are probably discussions that should be held here as part of the regular agenda. Abby and I have discussed this as well. You know, I think we have the concern that we don't want to let any of these topics, we don't want to forget about them. We don't want to, you know, let anything slide. But, you know, we can continue to keep that list up if things happen, either here at the meeting, we can continually update that list, or if something happens that you as a board member work on outside of this meeting, you could let us know and we can give updates on those. If there's something else that's going on, I can sure report on that in my report, or make sure something gets on the agenda for discussion if something needs to. I guess I'm just kind of looking for some feedback from you folks on what you think of those.
Well, I think Dennis made a good point, because we do a lot of discussing, and I think we even touched on it briefly previously, that we were, if we were going to really talk about something at great detail, otherwise, well, let's say it was the sheriff's department parking lot or whatever, well, that neighborhood would have to be here every time, and so I don't think that's fair. And I've been thinking of a solution, is because I like the work session for the fact that maybe we need another name for it, but not letting things go to the back burner. I like things, I'm a goal setter, and I like things on a piece of paper, win this, this, and this. And if Stacy is willing to keep track of that, and when it comes time, we put it on for a discussion item, even if maybe the discussion is only going to be 5 minutes, sometimes it's going to be 50 minutes, whatever it is, whether it stops, well, that'll be on our next meeting, won't it? The ordinance. Okay. Yeah. But whatever it would be, that normally we would do in work session, we would discuss it if we're going to great detail. And I do have a question, since I'm the newest on here, the commission reports. See, what we'll also worry about, we become reactive if we're not having a good discussion about issues coming up. And that's the beauty of work sessions a little bit. We talk about things coming up. And commission reports and discussion items. And I think I've looked at it, I'm to report to you folks things that I was at as a county commissioner. And I guess if we're all there, I guess we were all there. But if I'm at something and something came up, I want you to be aware of it, and we could have a discussion and say, you know what, this is something that we need to put on Stacy's agenda and our agenda in the future. So we guess who's buying donuts later. But but we're going to that's something, so we're proactive, that we're just not waiting things to happen to us, but we stay abreast. So I don't have a problem dropping it, but I think we should have a constant report, constant timeline that we work with. And if we have somebody, Stephanie's been at a meeting and this, wow, that's something we should be talking about. Let's set a time to talk about it. We can talk about it some informally, and if we settle it in 2 seconds, we settle in 2 seconds, but we got something that's going to last a lot longer, maybe we better put it on an agenda, and then interested parties can show up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the difficult thing, and the new board will have to make a decision, but I do think that you're right, it's good to have that list. But I think what what should be, probably could be done in the future is that you could say, okay, we're going to have a work session after our regular meeting, and here's the items we're going to discuss. The public knows what it is. They can come and be there. The difficult thing is it going to be at 10 o'clock? Is it going to be at 10:30? Is it going to be at 11? If you really get into that routine, you're going to have to say, our work session started at 11. If you get done at 10, you're going to have to go do something and come back at 11. And I think that's appropriate. If you don't have anything to talk about, then you don't schedule a work session. And I think that's the appropriate way to do it, because we were throwing things out there and having discussions on everything on there, which really some of the public could have given us input to make a decision to go into the future. So you guys can decide that into the future, but I think that's more of an appropriate way to do it, and then just throw the whole list out there and start going down the list. And it's a way to get things done, but it's,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just a question. Wasn't that list created when Stephanie left and we had that period without a commission assistant for a while? So now that we have Stacy back, I mean, that's really her role to follow up on that list and make sure you guys are all abreast of those concerns. And Stacy and I discussed it in detail, and I really have concerns continuing on with this. And I think going back to the way we used to operate and just having the commission assistant bring those issues as they arise is probably the better way to handle it from my perspective.
Okay.
But I think, follow up on Dennis, one good idea after another, but I really think it's important that if we're going to discuss something, whether it's one or two items, either it's in our agenda or a scheduled time. And it's an evolving process, I guess, good government, and maybe we can think about it. But I think the goal would be that if we're going to have an extensive discussion on something that's in the agenda, or like he said, you pick 11 o'clock to switch into that. But I don't know what it hurt to have it, other than people sitting through the whole meeting to get to that part of the agenda. So.
Well, I think that is why we have Stacy, and I think we can leave it to her discretion whether or not it's an item that we need to have put on our agenda or not. That's how it was always done before. I hate that cliche. But I think that she can handle that for us, and she will know what needs to go on the agenda and what doesn't. And obviously, if any of us have a concern about any of those items and want that particular item on the agenda, we can certainly ask her to put them on. So.
Okay, anything else, Stace?
Nope, just kind of a note on your upcoming dates. After today, we have our potluck is on the 16th, to put that on your calendars. Leadership Brookings again, still on the 18th coming up, and then January 6th, the gathering, the county gathering. So that's all I have.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. What do we still, refresh my memory because I can't, what do we still have at the 1921 building?
Nothing. We have nothing anymore. The last thing that we had was the garage space, and we terminated that lease, I think it was the end of September, after we had everything removed for the county surplus sale.
That's what I thought. So why then do we have to clean sidewalks?
We own that parking lot.
We own the parking lot.
The county
Oh, we
owns the parking
do.
lot.
Oh,
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
Dennis, what time do you have to go? At 10?
10.
Okay. I have a couple minor things, and I'll bring up at another time.
Well, let's let him do his report, and then you can.
Yep.
Okay,
Abby,
we do that?
we kind of jumped over you because you were out of the room, so I'm going to jump over you again because Dennis has to leave and give his report, and then we'll come back.
Okay, I have nothing to report.
Okay.
Well, I was
One-
thinking that he could come
I
to
do have-
executive session. Well, I just thought if we got into executive session, at least you'd be up to date.
I would, it isn't going to take
Yep. So-
Okay, Commissioner Wyseth.
20th, Ryan and I met at Banners with all utilities. The meeting went very well, and we're proceeding. Dick Burke is, we thinking of having the bid opening here, right, Stacy? Did you get a hold-
January 15th at 10 a.m.
At
upstairs in the community room.
Okay, thank you. And then Growth Partnership, we had a long meeting again, and I wish I could tell you some of the stuff. The 24th, we met with the attorney for the Planning and Zoning Board. And on the 25th, as Bob reported, 1 to 5, we talked about the comprehensive plan.
Okay. Stephanie?
Okay, I went on the 18th, I toured the highway department, as did the other commissioners, and that was interesting and informative. On the 19th, I attended an Egg Layers meeting pursuant to an invite from the Governor's Office of Economic Development. On November 20th, I attended the Extension Board meeting where we reworked the job description for the second part-time person and discussed our forward plan. November 24th, I attended the executive session of the Planning and Zoning. On November 25th, I attended some of the comprehensive plan meeting. December 2nd, the Optimist Breakfast, and I received a call. The Volga City Council was delighted to have the offer of the trees that we okayed, and they were so excited that they purchased an additional 10 trees at full cost. So I said, that's good to know, and I hope that you will look at expanding your program for the future years.
Okay. Abby?
Just really quickly, sorry, I had to go with the youth and government in my office, so that's why I had to step out for a minute with Clyde. The only update I guess I would have is Novita. I am working with Rick, and Tom and Don are apprised of that, but basically working on revamping the road use agreement to update it, and we do hope to have it on the agenda potentially December 16th, if not December 30th, get it finished this year, and hopefully be breaking some ground next year, I think, so.
Okay. I had the Swiftel board meeting, and everything's, a lot of exciting things going out. You've seen some of the announcements, and there's some more that they're working on, and I'm delighted to see the opportunities that that facility is bringing forward. So, then with that, we're done with our commissioner reports, Deputy State's Attorney, and we have an executive session scheduled prior to our work session. So the chair would entertain a motion to go into executive session for legal purposes.
So moved.
Moved by Wyseth, second by Miller. Call the roll.
Sorry. Miller, Falcon, Wyseth,
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, and we will come out of executive session for adjournment, and then we do have short work session scheduled. We've concluded our executive session recess. We'll reconvene as a board. And at this time, there being nothing further for the good of the order. Yes.
Don, Stacy just mentioned maybe, was there any last questions on the liquor license issue or anything?
Was there
from
any
the-
what?
Any last questions on the liquor license discussion or anything? She had said maybe it would just be worthwhile to,
I think if anything, the people that brought it forward and the applicant will probably ask for some clarification. I mean, you know, they understand, and they'd probably like to present maybe through their counsel or to you just the actions that they took prior to September 1. You know, I mean, we understand, and they understand the law too. There may be some questions, and I think at this point, if they did ask you a question regarding the discussion we had at the table, it would be okay for you to answer, you know, not representing them, but if they ask for a definition of the law. You know, if I realize you can't advise a private citizen, but if somebody asks, that was kind of the discussion we had, and I think maybe through their counsel as well, they may just ask some questions in a very positive way, just for clear.
did they have an attorney here with them?
Pardon?
No.
They did not today, no. But they understand the process to the best of their ability, and they're not trying to circumvent anything. They want open communication.
Right.
So that might be the question that you're asked from them. How do we, you know, what should we do? You know,
There was, you know, looking at the state law, there's just not getting around that September thing. And but I think, you know, they were hoping that there was a loophole, and I've always loved loopholes. But I think going forward, the one part, it in that statute, it talks about if you have an ordinance or a resolution. So we might want a resolution that gives the future commission more flexibility that the resolution, if we're going to write one, it said if you have one. If you don't have one, you just need to take action before that September deadline. Or if we're going to write one, have enough flexibility that says whatever the state allows or something. Instead of just say 6, it's whatever the state allows. And to give future commissions more elbow room, you know, but still you can't get around that. I love loopholes, and I couldn't find one on that September.
That was part of the discussion I had with Carol Logan with this. She asked if there was a specific number stated in the resolution, and when I told her, yes, it stated 6, she said, you know, then now you're set with 6. Had the resolution said as many as the state will allow, then our hands wouldn't have been tied.
Yeah.
But because the resolution stated a specific number.
Yeah, the date is the one that goofed everything up. And the question was asked, in fact, it was asked, you weren't here. Mr. Erickson asked me last spring, you know, how many, you know, can you get a liquor license, how many are available? And I said, we make them available as population dictates. Me not even thinking outside of the municipalities that we'd increased in population enough to allow for another one. So, yeah, I didn't know, so it was, you know.
Yeah, you know, you get
Had we
pestered by people
known that, we
want
could have
those
said, yeah, I
licenses.
guess there's one could be made available, and it would have been taken care of, so. Okay.
Well, you usually find out just exactly how he did. People want the licenses, and they're right in your face all the time. But what's the law and when? So
Yeah, well, they, you know, and I have to admit, these people have not been in my face, quote unquote. They just asked
they're
the
great
question.
people. Yeah.
So, yeah, Mr. Hill.
Would you like a yearly report? When the county development does our end of year report, we put building permits and all that on there. We could easily put the latest. The census puts out a projected census yearly. We could easily put down the number if you'd like. How much it's growing? Yeah, what the population numbers is for the county.
That would be nice to have, but I'm not sure that we would still know that would entitle us to another liquor.
Well,
Yeah,
you'd have to
and
know
that's
the
not in my
law.
office's preview to worry about liquor
Yeah.
licenses.
It'd have to be on the top of your mind. And quite frankly, on the city side, Sherry Thornes is the one that is the gatekeeper of it. because she is hounded, and so she knows the law, she checks the census, because there are people asking her all the time. Well, who's asked you lately until this deal? So,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Okay, there being nothing else for the good of the order, I declare the meeting adjourned. And I think we'll be very brief in our work session today, even more brief based on our earlier conversation. And we do have our topics. Let's put it this way. Is there anything that's burning desire that anybody's attended a meeting or